Welcome back to the channel. So this is going to be episode number 15 of my van build series, and this is the one everyone's been waiting for. This is the NP233 4x4 transfer case swap on my 1998 GMC Safari van. I'm going to be doing this swap with the help of the Journeys Off-Road 4x4 transfer case swap kit. Before I get started, I just want to say that I know some of you guys have been following along with my journeys, and my last trip ended with me breaking down in the woods, having to get towed home. They towed my van home, parked in the driveway. My van has not driven since. I cannot figure out what is going on. I have some more parts in the mail, specifically a new distributor. I do not have spark, and I have not figured out what it is. So as soon as I get it running, I'll have a video on that. And yeah, that's the status of that. But I needed a distraction, and that distraction is doing my transfer case swap. So that's what this video is about. One more thing before I cut back to my original footage. This is going to be done with the Journeys Off-Road kit, which is $274 on their website, which seems like a pretty reasonable price to pay. But considering the fact that I'm in Canada, so that is actually, I'd transfer that to Canadian dollars, and I had to pay an extra $50 shipping American, plus I had to pay extra taxes and duties on top of that to get into Canada. This actually comes out to be a fairly expensive kit for what mostly ends up just being a shifter. But this is what I wanted. This is what I felt like I needed. So that is what I bought. So yeah, Journeys Off-Road kit, NP233 transfer case swap. We'll cut back into the original footage. Here we go. I'll see you at the van. So I've actually, in the spirit of full disclosure, I actually started this project before I went on my road trip, and like everything else in my life, it turned into an absolute clusterfuck. So I've actually removed my transfer case previously.
Yeah, you got the front and the back?
Sort of.
You good?
Yeah.
Cool.
And then I realized that I had an issue, which I'll talk more about later. But yeah, so I'm going to go back under here. I'm going to yank out rear drive shaft, front drive shaft, and transfer case. And then I'll rejoin you to discuss after that. Okay, so a little update here. I have this transmission, or I have this transfer case supported with this jack here, which allowed me to take this mount out from in here, because I'm going to need to get some bolts behind it. And now I have this piece of wood, two pieces of wood there, under the transmission pan, and I'm essentially going to lower the van down via this jack. I'm going to lower it down and kind of support it with that wood under the transmission jack, and remove the transfer case that way. I don't necessarily suggest supporting it under the transmission pan with wood, but that's what I'm going to do, and I don't really feel that bad about it, but I don't want to tell you to do it. Anyways, I'm going to get back to it and finally finish pulling off this transfer case. Transfer case is fully ready to come out now. I got all the bolts undone except for this one here. Still has a wrench attached because I backed it off too far. I can no longer pull it out, so I'm gonna have to dip this thing out, pull it back, and hopefully that's undone enough and it'll just kind of come out easily, but I might have to sort of fight with it. But I'm also doing this totally solo, so I'm not 100% sure how well this is gonna go. So I might drop the transfer case. But we're gonna do my best, and really I don't care about this transfer case, so if I drop it, I drop it. As long as I'm not under there, I'm good to go. Cool. Okay, transfer case is out, and this is one thing I want to talk. This is one thing I want to talk about. These are the drive shafts that came out. These big ones are the rear, and these ones are the front. So when I first started doing this last time, I pulled out this transfer case, and if you see, this has a flange here, which bolts to this front of the drive shaft, and there's no room for splines. So this new one is longer, but more importantly it has splines here, because if you remember, well, I guess I'll probably put a little picture here, but the front of the NP233 has splines on the output shaft, and this old one, I don't actually know what the number is. Anyways, it has the flange, not spline. So this is where I realized I screwed up last time. So on the Journey's website, the information page of the transfer case swap says 1999 and up. It is the correct information. But I was reading in the how-to section of this transfer case swap, and it said it fits 1998 and up, which is, I guess, just a misprint. And anyways, for whatever reason, I went off of that and didn't fully think it through. So that's one thing, if you're going to do the swap, you should take note of. 1999 and up is the correct drive shafts. Both front and rear are different. The rears are about 3 inches shorter. This one is shorter, and actually that looks a little bit beefier than that. That is for sure beefier than that. And yeah, it's shorter, front one longer, and has splines. But transfer case is out. I made a little bit of a mess, so I'm gonna clean that up a bit, and I think I'm gonna go have some lunch. Okay, so I'm back from lunch, ready to cut a hole. But before that, I'm just gonna show you here. No, actually I'm gonna go cut a hole. So I just bought this 2.5 inch hole saw to replace one of the problems I had when I first tried this. I'm trying to look for something on the go here. When I first tried this, I used this crappy hole saw trying to cut a hole, and it like barely scrapped the paint. But I bought this whole set for $16.79, I think it was. And it was just straight trash. So buy a real hole saw. It would be my advice to you. So I'm gonna go under there right now, and I'll show you where I'm about to cut. I think sounds dangerous. So up under here, there's this square. It is a very obvious square, and that is where the kit told me to cut. So if you actually see here, this is where I tried to cut before. So I got the center drilled, and then this is where the really crappy hole saw may or may not have scratched the paint or just scratched the dirt. But I did drill up from the middle through the carpet on the top. So I think I'm actually going to go up top and drill down through this hole, just to avoid some metal flakes in my face. So yeah, and go up top and start cutting. And there we go. We have a hole. Exciting. Okay, so I threw some paint on the hole on the edge so it doesn't rust out. Now I'm about to put the shifter in. It says right here, mount shifter from the bottom, this end forward. And then I got another note that says mount shifter assembly using this side. So that's for future use. So I'm gonna shove this in the hole, and I'm just gonna drill one hole and screw in the nut, and then try to get it as straight as possible, and then just start drilling more holes and go to town. Yeah, just double check from the top side. It looks straight, so I'm just gonna give her. Okay, so this looks pretty good, and you didn't really need to drill a hole. Those screws or bolts or whatever, bolt screws, you could just drill them in, like screw them in. So that was the thing that everyone probably knew watching this video, that those are like self-tapping, but I didn't. But now I do. So that looks good down here. So I think I'm going to go over to the transfer cases and do a little bit of work there before I come back and put them in. Cool. Okay, I'm over here by the transfer cases, and now you can clearly see the two. So this, again, this is the flange where the bolt drive shaft bolted to, and this is the new one, the NP233. Clearly needed a different drive shaft than what was there. So this, I actually just bolted this on, but I'm probably just gonna I bolted this on before when I thought I was moving ahead with everything the last time, so I'll probably undo this and then redo it just to show you what it looks like. But yeah, this transfer case is like 40% larger probably, and I took it off. I took this little, like, I guess it's a mini bell housing apart from it, and there was a O-ring here that I now transferred over to fit on here. And just measuring this, I think this is exactly the same, but this gasket right here is supplied with my Journeys kit. But since the way I took it off, and I still see no evidence of it leaking around here, I think I'm actually just going to bolt it in this way and not split it here. But maybe I was supposed to take it off this way. I'm not really sure, but it came off easy enough this way. And since I already know that I've put on this one the same way twice, it went on quite easy. So maybe it's wrong, maybe it's right, but that's just the way I did it. So one other thing, this mount was my existing mount, and you can actually see right here, it's like kind of separated from the metal there. And my new one came with a new mount, which I think looks to be in better shape. So I'm probably going to use the new mount. Yeah, I'm probably going to use the new mount to mount it in. But first things first, one other thing I'm going to do ahead of time here. I have a... That was smooth. I have a replacement tail shaft seal. So you see this one's got some cracking there. So it needs to be replaced. So I don't really know exactly what I'm going to use to drive the new one on, but that is the current task ahead of me, is put that shaft on, and then I'll probably go through this motor replacement, and then transfer case going in the van. Cool. So I made my driving device. I just used my hole saw, cut a big hole in, tie that on top. This thing fits perfectly tight. I'm gonna hammer that on. Like, yeah. Honestly, this worked so good. Perfectly tight, went in perfectly straight. Took like 3 hammer shots. That worked way better than I expected. Yeah, I'm gonna pull this little thing off and show you the order that it goes together. So we'll do that now. So basically we got this motor here. This is where the original motor went. And it's electric, and we don't want to deal with that shit. So we got this, a little bit of that crud out of here. And we got this little wavy washer. Goes in. This spacer. Then we got this plate here. Spacer. Your switch. Screws in. And we got, and it just sits over top of here. And then we got spacers. Oh, make it simple. Spacer over that hole. And I'm actually going to put some thread locker on there first before I tighten it up. And then this one you put the ground, spacer, and ta-da. Essentially, like I said, I'm going to tighten those, put some thread locker on, tighten those, and then you got your shifter arm there, and that's it. Simple. Actually, one more thing before I put this in. This is the original vacuum. I think it's a vacuum switch. Anyways, it was there, but the kit came with this new bolt that is now filling that place. So now I'm gonna go see what I'm putting the transfer case in the van. Okay, transfer case is in. That would have been a lot easier with more than one person, but it's in. I got it done. Transmission was in neutral, so I could spin the shaft, the output shaft of the transmission. Other than that, yeah, it's in. Now I'm going to start bolting it up, get the bolts all around the little bell housing there, and then I'll have to put the mount back in and go from there. Cool. That was something. Okay, so I'm getting close to being kind of done down here with the install of the transfer case. Everything's all bolted up. Everything's all in here. Shifter lever is connected and it works. I went up top and moved it back and forth. It feels like it's going 4 or 2, 4, and 4 low. Obviously I can't test this right now to know, so I might have to adjust this rod at some point. I'm not really sure, but that'll be for a later date. I have this wiring connection, which is going to have to go up to my computer to tell me if I'm in 4 low or not, which the connector is supplied with the kit. And also I have this connector. There's a new one supplied in the kit. That is the vehicle speed sensor, which plugs in here. I did plug this in and it fits. So maybe I'm fine leaving it, but I did get supplied with a new connector, so I'm probably going to do it. But I am currently kind of tired, so I'm going to go up top and just install the boot and shift knob as a little bit of a mental break. Then I'm going to come back down here, put in the drive shafts. We got 2 high, 4 low. It's definitely not the smoothest operating, but I think I might have to adjust it, but I think it's doing what it's supposed to do. And I could also, I might have to, well, I just have to say I have to adjust it. I might have to get in there, tighten things, make sure nothing's like binding up, but yeah, I think it looks cool. Okay, I'm gonna go throw some drive shafts in. I really don't want to. Yeah, I've been working. I've been working for like 5 hours, 4 hours, 4.5 hours. I think I started just before 11 and it's almost 4, so almost 5 hours. I did take that lunch break, which was delicious. Okay, so I got my front drive shaft in here, and if you look, there is almost no clearance. There is clearance, but I don't know if I should trust it, because if there's any sort of vibrations or who knows what, I just don't want it to contact. So I think I'm going to pull the shaft out again and do some grinding here and just make a little bit more room, because to get this in, I had to undo these bolts, rejack this up to fit the shaft in so it could go in, so I could knock it in straight. But I'm not fully comfortable with that, so I'm gonna make a mark and just do some grinding. I don't need a huge amount of gap, but I feel like some would be a good idea. Okay, so drive shafts are fully in front and back. This thing is still tight from where, from where it goes over the cross member. I grinded it down a little bit, but I was thinking about it, and I guess this realistically isn't gonna move because this is mounted to the cross member and the front disc mounted to the subframe too. So it's all mounted together. So I'm just gonna run it, and if I happen to notice any noise or anything, obviously I'll take a bigger notch out of it. But I tend to think it's totally fine. I finished up all this wiring with the connector supplied in the kit. This is going up to the front. But one of the connectors, I tightened it up, and then as I was trying to feed it through the plastic, this thing, whatever the heck you call it, the tubing that it goes through, it popped off the connector, and then I was like, oh, I should solder this, but then I couldn't really figure out where my solder gun was, so temporarily I just put a different connector on there. I don't really like it per se, but it's probably fine. The new connector's on there and it should be good to go. So yeah, drive shafts are in, front, rear, all the wiring's done. I don't remember if I mentioned this earlier, but I connected up this vacuum tube or vacuum line just to the breather up here. So I don't know if I mentioned that earlier. Yeah, this is the wire coming off the 4x4 switch here. Ran along, I think this is the fuel, no, it's an air conditioning line, all the way up to the front. Yeah, ran it all the way up to the front. And I have it temporarily pulled up through here. I'm gonna loop it around to this side, but it's gonna connect. I got access to this now with my remove my battery, and you see my crappy battery tray. But I'm gonna pull off this bottom connector here, and I think that is where I have to connect this end of this wire to, and that will tell my computer that I'm in 4 low. So yeah, I'm gonna pop that off and see what I can figure out. Okay. I pulled this connector off, the bottom one on the left there, and you can see in here all these pins are numbered. I don't know how well you're gonna see it. It goes to 24 is here, so 23, you probably won't be able to read this again, is the pin I'm connecting to. So I'm gonna take that wire and run it into that pin. Okay, so I broke the pin off the add a pin connector thingy there. So I can't really finish today, which is kind of a bummer. I have to pick up some sort of new add a pin. But in the meantime, what I've done, I don't know how well you're gonna be able to see this, but see in here, right here, is my wire that I just twisted it up and stuck it through in as a pin, which is right up in here. You can see the strands of wire sticking out. Anyway, I stuck that in there now temporarily, and honestly I kind of think it's gonna plug in and work and connect enough. And also, I don't really think it's critical, so there's a chance I just leave it. Obviously I can't test this whole thing right now, but there's a chance I'd leave it as is. But if not, I'll pick up and add a pin, and I'll come back and just add to the list of shit I gotta get done later. But that's it for now. That was the end of this episode. Chicks Dig 4-wheel drive, the Journeys off-road NP233 transfer case swap. Have a good night or day, honestly, but I'm having a good night. Oh, one thing that took me 7 hours plus including a lunch break. 7 hours. I'm theoretically done, although I'm not done. Yeah, about 7-hour job. Did it totally by myself. Relatively straightforward. You just watched it, so make up your own mind. Yeah, now have a good night.